Most people, they just look at the internet and see websites, apps, social media feeds, but they just never stop to wonder where all that data actually lives. We have been taught to believe the internet is a free and open space, yet almost everything we do online today is controlled by just 3 or 4 massive companies. If those companies decide to, say, flip a switch tomorrow, entire countries could lose their data, their records, and their ability to actually function as a government. And there is a massive gap between the dream of, say, free internet and the reality of the centralized machines that actually run it. Right now, a shift is happening in the background as we speak that most people are completely missing because they are just too busy. Just looking at price charts, looking at meme coins while the world is distracted. There is one specific network who's quietly building a global infrastructure that spans 33 countries and handles thousands, and I mean thousands of transactions every second. And it's just not just another piece of software. It is a physical, global distributed machine that is already running the kind of technology people thought was decades away. This is not about a new coin or a temporary trend. It's about the complete rebuilding of how the digital world operates from the ground up. The world of technology, it often moves in 2 ways. There is the noise that everyone talks about, and then there is the actual work being done in the dark. And I can tell you for the last few years, the conversation around decentralized technology, it has been dominated by simple tokens and digital art and meme coins and vaporware. But the real challenge has always been much bigger than that. The real challenge is building an actual system that can replace the trillion-dollar cloud computing industry. Because in this discussion today, we're going to look at the actual hard facts behind the internet computer, ICP, and the world computer, and why its recent surge in network revenue is a core signal that something fundamental is changing as we speak. We will break down how the actual IC system uses 49 different subnets across the planet to create an actual sovereign internet. We will also explore why nearly half of the entire supply is locked away by people who are actually committed for the years ahead, and what that tells us about the actual long-term conviction versus the short-term hype behind the ecosystem. And by the end of this, you will understand the core difference between a project that is selling a dream and an actual network that is already providing a live, globally distributed service. We are opening a door to how the actual future of how the web is being built. And once you see the architecture, you can't unsee the flaws in it. And you will understand the flaws in the system today. And to understand why this matters, well, we have to look at the numbers that just came out. Because recently, the internet computer, it showed a 7-day revenue of over $91,000, marking a surge of more than 500%. So when you say compare that to the other major players with much larger market caps in the space, even the biggest names, say like Ethereum, the growth in revenue is significantly higher. And this is what momentum looks like when a network starts to actually get used for real world tasks. Because I can tell you, my years observing traditional financial markets and working in them, I learned that price is often the last thing to move. The first thing that moves is the actual underlying usage. It's like, say, watching a new railway being built. You don't wait for the first train to arrive to know the economy of that area is about to change. You actually look at the tracks being laid down. Because right now, as we speak, this network is running on 49 subnets around the world. And to make that simple, think of a subnet like a mini blockchain that handles a specific set of tasks. Because there are 49 of them, okay? The network can do many things at once without slowing down. It is currently operating in over 33 different countries. This is a huge deal here, because for digital sovereignty, just imagine a small country that wants to store its citizens' medical records. If they put, say, those records on a server owned by a big tech, centralized company in a different country, they are at the mercy of that company's laws and choices. But with a distributed network, that data can live across many different locations, make it impossible for one single government or any company to take it away. And I can tell you one thing from my experience working in institutional finance, and what that experience taught me is to look at where the patient money is actually going. Because in the banking world, we used to look at long-term certificates of deposits, or say locked up equity, to see who really is believed in the actual company's future. Because on this network, 239 million tokens, they are staked. But here is a part that should make you stop and actually think over. $150 million worth of value is locked up. In fast moving world of technology, that's a lot of money. People don't lock up that much money, unless they are actually convinced that the infrastructure they are actually supporting is going to be the foundation of the next decade. So the way this system actually handles software is also different, because most blockchains use things called smart contracts, which are basically small pieces of code that can move money, simple. But this network, ICP, uses actual core canisters. And think of a canister like a superpowered shipping container for code. It just doesn't hold a contract. It holds the entire application. We're talking the front end, the back end that you see in your browser, the actual database, and the logic. This means you can run an entire website or even an AI service completely decentralized on the blockchain, 100%. There is no need for an outside server at all. It is a self-contained unit that runs at Web 2 speed. I remember a situation back when I was looking at traditional bank infrastructures. There was a major service, I won't say their name, went down because a single data center in Virginia had power failure. We're talking thousands of businesses couldn't process payments for hours. It was a single point of failure. But the internet computer is designed to make that impossible to happen, because the core nodes are drawn from different data centers across the globe and coordinated by a decentralized brain called the network nervous system, or the NNS. There is no single plug to pull. So if one data center goes down in one jurisdiction, the others just keep moving. Nothing stops the train. And the big problem we face today is that the internet, or Web 2, has become fragile. We rely on a client-server model that hasn't changed much since the 90s. You are the client, and you ask a big company's server for information. That server is a target for hackers. It can be censored, and it can be shut down at will at any time. And this is the challenge. How do we actually build a world where the internet belongs to everyone and no one at the same time? How do we keep our actual core data safe from massive breaches that happen every single second of the day? And this is where the cloud engines come in. This is a new part of the technology that allows big organizations or even governments to spin up their own private parts of the network. It's like having your own private lane on a massive global highway. You get the security and the speed of the whole network, but you get to decide exactly where your data is stored to follow your local laws. It feels like using a standard cloud dashboard, say like Amazon's, but underneath it all, it's completely decentralized, 100%. I can tell you, I saw this pattern repeat long before it was obvious in other industries. When the world, say, moved from physical mail to email, people were worried about security and where the messages we're actually living on. The ones who actually understood the shift early in that regards were the ones who didn't just look at the convenience, but at the underlying protocol of what emails are. We're at that same point again, because the revenue from these new cloud engines is actually burned or given to the people running the IC hardware, which creates a healthy cycle. And what really matters here isn't just the technical specifications, it's the incentives. Because in the old world, the big tech companies, they want to keep your data so they can sell ads. But in this new world, their network is powered by the actual people who are rewarded for keeping systems fast, safe, and up and running 100% of the times. And it's a shift from don't be evil to can't be evil. The architecture literally doesn't allow for the kind of manipulation we see in today's centralized systems. Think of it like this. If you wanted to, say, build a house today, you would have to rent the land from a landlord who could kick you out at any time. The internet computer is like giving everyone the ability to own the land their digital house is built on. It is a permanent, tamper-proof foundation at the core. Currently, the network is handling over 900 transactions per second on some of its subnets, even at well over 1,000. That isn't a theoretical number. That is happening right now as we speak. It is live software running on real metal in data centers from Stockholm to Singapore, around the globe. As we look forward to the future, the gap between how this network, ICP, is valued and what it can actually do is becoming hard to ignore. Many people, they still think of this as just another crypto project, just another token, but it's actually a direct competitor to the biggest cloud providers on earth. So when the market stops comparing it to, say, other tokens and starts comparing it to the infrastructure that runs the world's data, and it's going to complement it and make that infrastructure better, the perspective will shift entirely. The technology has matured. The cloud engines are providing an easy way for businesses, governments to join, and economic models becoming more efficient every day. Everything we have discussed points back to one main idea. The internet is changing from a system of rented spaces to a system of owned infrastructure. The surging revenues we are seeing is just the beginning, the first sign that people are starting to use the machine for what it was intended and built for. The massive amount of locked tokens shows that the people closest to the project aren't looking for a quick buck here. They're not looking for a quick win. They are building for the next decades to come. Because the key lesson here is simple, but yet very powerful. Core structure matters more than most people think. Because in my time observing markets, I learned that you can have the best idea in the world, but if the foundations are weak, it would eventually crumble. And what we are seeing here today is the construction of a foundation that is designed to last. This perspective might just shift the way you see the digital world of Web3 around you. Because the next time you log into a website or use an app in Web2, ask yourself, where is that data? Where is it actually sitting? And who has the power to turn it off at will? Understanding these shifts can completely change how you approach the future of technology and Web3. It is about seeing the reality of the infrastructure instead of just the noise of the news in the crypto world. The facts tell us that the network is growing. The participants are committed and the underlying technology is already live and performing at scale and improving every single day. Because everything comes together when we see it from this angle. We are moving from a web where we are the product towards a web where we are the owners. And that is the story of how the internet is being rebuilt, one subnet at a time. With that, we wrap up today's journey into the architecture of the future. The world is often much further along than the headlines actually suggest. And those who actually take the time to look under the hood are the ones who truly understand where we are going. Remember, stay curious and let your journey continue, because everything we've explored today, from the way data is distributed across the globe to the actual long-term conviction of those building this underlying network, could change the way you see the digital world forever. And remember, the choices we make today in how we understand this technology will shape tomorrow's story. And if this video actually cut through the noise and actually gave you clarity, not hype, not hopium, then do 3 things right now as we speak. Hit like, so this reaches people who are tired of being misled in the cryptosphere. Subscribe, because this channel, it's all about understanding where the underlying technology, money, and power are actually going before headlines catch up to it. And comment with what clicked for you or what you want next in broken down in a video next time. I read every single comment if it's of value. And if you want signal instead of noise perspective, instead of panic and clarity before consensus, subscribe now. And remember, stay decentralized, and I will see you on the internet computer. Until next time.